Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Coaches podcast, where we talk about everything going on in sports. And Brother Bill and we're very excited to let everybody know that told us at church that we were wrong, that the Niners are legit and we whoop on teams. That seems to be what we do. Cowboys and Eagles, not even close, both times. Brother Bill, it is my pleasure to let you take this topic first.
I can honestly say that I was surprised at the score. I expected a closer game. What I didn't expect was that the Niners offense was going to not just get rolling, but stay rolling the whole game. I can't think of the last time. It's been a long time since I've seen that offense look this good. I mean, they have to go all the way back to the 94 Super Bowl season to see when they've just been racking up score after score consecutively. I mean, it had never been done, but I mean, they never done in their history, scored 6 straight touchdowns. I mean, and that's saying something. The other thing that stood out for me is how well the defense played. If you take away, Dre Greenlaw deciding to body slam, Swift there and giving up that field position, and changing the field position, I don't know that the Philadelphia Eagles even would have gotten to the end zone again. And so that 19 points that they got, the game wasn't even that close if you watched it, just to see how well the Niners offense and especially their defense played. And Philly had just no answer offensively or defensively. They couldn't run the ball, which I didn't expect them to. Jalen Hurts was their only running game. And I said last week, running quarterbacks, leading your team, that's not a formula for success. They got away with it with other teams. The Niners their defensive line was ready for that. They dominated the line of scrimmage like I knew they would have to in order to win the game. But once they got rolling, like I said, it was lights out. I'm hoping that they can just celebrate the win and be ready for Seattle on Sunday, because I expect that to be a dogfight. The Eagles they're still the Eagles. I expect them to bounce back, just like the Cowboys bounced back when we thumped them in week 5. And it's going to make an interesting last, 5 games of the season. But the Niners, they know who they are. And if they play their potential, then I like their chances in the postseason. But we'll just got to wait and see. Next thing up is Seattle on Sunday.
Deacon Hill, thoughts on our 49ers?
Wah, 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 wah.
Here they go. Talk all that wick whack last Sunday, and that's all you got? Come on, man.
Yeah, I got no text. All I heard was I'm going to get text on Sunday. I got 0 text from anybody.
I had to hear it last week, man. Come on.
No, I give you guys credit. Like I said, you guys went in there and you thumped them. But Bill, I won't say that the game wasn't that close. It was. I mean, Philadelphia put up 19 points. That ain't brag. That ain't nothing to write home about. Their formula, they don't have a running game. They came out, Jalen Hurts had like 3 hours in the pocket to try to find somebody. That was you guys' strong point downfield, the coverage downfield. He never could find a receiver, to open. But he was staying back there forever trying to find someone. But I think that they like you always say, Bill, you got to, even though you can't run, you got to try. They wasn't even trying to run the ball. I think they had I forgot the stat was like 25 yards or something like that running the ball. But yeah, they didn't even attempt to run the ball. So but yeah, I'm gonna give the Niners credit for what they did. They were clicking on all cylinders. McCaffrey was running. You guys had your running game going with McCaffrey. Debo got loose and did what he does, and everybody contributed. And your quarterback, he executed the game plan all the way down. So right now, the Niners are atop of the NFL, the whole NFL, the AFC. I'm looking at the AFC. I don't see anything over there. So, yeah, I give credit to the Niners, but it's still, you still got to play some games. So we will see. But right now, I will give you guys the credit that you deserve. You go in there and thump those guys. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about the amount of time that Jalen Hurts had, I think that's part of our strategy.
Yes.
Is we're not aggressive going towards the quarterback. We just kind of create this pocket around him. No. And we couldn't get by the guys one-on-one. But the thing that I love is that they have hardcore, legit wide receivers. And even with all that time, the wide receivers were having a very hard time finding an opening. And to me, that was the most impressive part, because as a Niners fan, one of my biggest concerns has been up to this point our secondary. And you don't get, I mean, the wide receiver combo in Philadelphia is legit. And the fact that he had all that time and still couldn't find dudes except for like those slants were kind of getting us until the very end when we almost killed that guy. And to me, that was
say that though, but I'm thinking if they would have had a running game, see, that would have brought your DBs and everybody. They would have had to try to, look for the running, but they didn't worry about the run. We just playing the pass.
Yeah, and I'm sure the NFC Championship game that will be a big time adjustment
if the Eagles get there.
But who's going to beat them?
Well, if they don't if they don't win the division, then that means they're going to have 2 road games. And depending on who they play in the playoffs, like I said, the key for them is they gotta they gotta finish strong. The way I look at it, and actually I want to comment something that Deacon Hill said. The reason why Hurts had all that time in the pocket was by design. See, typically the Niners, the way they rush the quarterback, they rush and they're trying to get to him. They made a concerted effort to keep him in the pocket because he's their running threat. Now, did they want to give him 5-6 seconds? No, of course not. But again, the idea was just to make sure that he stayed in front of them so that they didn't rush past him. Then all of a sudden, you've got these running lanes where you can take off and kill him with his legs. Now they're not going to do that next week against Seattle because that's a different animal, right? But for Hurts, because they talked about it earlier this week. I don't know who it was that commented. I mean, it's not that they gave away their whole strategy, but there was talk about that. Yeah, that was part of their strategy was to keep him in the pocket, contain and keep him in front of them.
And it worked pretty well. Did you see David Carr? And this has to be just for clicks. If he actually thinks this, he's not smart enough to be on TV. He was advocating for Mariota being in instead of Hurts because he thinks Mariota could do better. And I'm like, what world are you in right now, dude?
I was surprised they put Hurts back in the game. Sure, he passed. That was the fastest time I've ever seen a quarterback clear a concussion protocol during the game because the game was over. It was over at 35-13.
Yeah, I know. The likelihood of us playing them again in the playoffs is very, very high, and the fact that I can't think of the dude's name, the dude that they drafted from Georgia, the fact that he was crying at the end of the game means that next time we play them, the emotions are going to, that defensive line is going to be on fire.
He was crying because of what Alabama did.
Well, he wasn't crying. Those were not tears of joy. Those were tears of I just got my butt kicked on TV all day.
Was it Hassan Reddick?
No. The dude, the rookie, that drafted
Anthony something, the one from Georgia, yeah.
And that likes to race cars.
Yeah. Number 98.
And notice what they did. I mean, Hassan Reddick was them, I think, mentioned once in that game. So again, the other thing that stood out to me was they weren't going to let Reddick beat him. Now their defensive line, they got to Purdy a couple of times early, but once and Deacon Hill mentioned it. Once the Niners got that running game going, it was lights out because that just opened up their whole offense, and they were able to do things with Debo and McCaffrey. In the second quarter, it was a wrap. Those Debo long touchdowns, that was a icing on the cake.
Yeah, those, I will say that the way that they approached the beginning of the game was different. It's almost like they kind of just waited to kind of see a few series of what the Eagles were going to do on both sides. And I will admit the first couple like the first quarter, I'm texting you going, this I don't really like the way this looks. And then
I didn't like it at all.
Like they turned the switch on.
Yeah, I'm like, Kyle, don't.
I was about to text Joe, but
good thing you waited. But it felt like what the Patriots would do in the Super Bowl. Like you don't really do anything the first quarter. You just kind of see how they're going to come at you, and then you take off. And when we took off, we were gone.
And like I said before, you guys, there's no way that Philadelphia could get into a track meet with you guys. You know, that ain't gonna happen. They gotta be a dogfight. They ain't got enough weapons and to run with you guys like that. So they have to, they got to try to.
Well, if Hurts could get out and run, that's how that's how you do the track meet with us. But the way we were containing him, he had to throw the ball.
We made him one-dimensional, and Deacon Hill said it again. They only ran the ball 18 times. You gotta, if you're not gonna stop the run, if you're not gonna stop the other team's running game, you dang sure better have some sort of running game of your own, just in order to give your defense some rest.
Exactly. And like I said, Hurst hasn't been running all season, not like he was last year.
Because his
I don't know
knees
if they've
messed
been
up.
saying he has some nagging injuries going on and stuff, but he hasn't been that. You could even tell in that game he didn't want, when he went out for that concussion thing, he got bent backwards and hit all kind of way. He usually don't take that kind of punishment,
Right.
So
yeah, I think as soon as the season's over, you're gonna hear he's gonna have a knee scope or he's gonna have his knees got something, but I'm okay with that. So switching to the AFC, there's another injury last night with Trevor Lawrence. So the Jags are done, the Bengals are done. The Chargers suck mostly because of their coach. The Bills suck. I don't know how or why they suck. People seem to have figured out the Steelers are not that good and can pounce on them. So you have these two teams at the top, and this is just assuming that it's a down year for Kansas City and they don't figure it out. I suspect that they'll figure it out somehow because they have a great coach and a great quarterback and everything. But let's just assume that they don't figure it out. Who is a bigger disappointment for not making the Super Bowl this year? Is it Baltimore or is it Miami? And Deacon Hill, I'll let you go first. Or is it somebody else that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, well, I think those will be the two top favorites, Miami and Baltimore, other than Kansas City. And I'm really worried about Kansas City right now. I don't know if they will figure it out. They got some big issues going over there. But I would think I would say it would be Baltimore, because Baltimore they were supposed to be loaded this year. They gave Lamar all that money. They brought him in some receivers. The defense supposed to be stout. And so I think they should be favored over Miami. Miami, they were trying to work things out. I'm really surprised that Tua is still on the field from what I seen last year. So that's where my biggest concern was with Miami is I don't know how long Tua would be around. So he's been healthy. He's been able to play, and and they're a good team. But I just still don't think Miami's defense is as stout as Baltimore's defense. So I think Miami just, they depend more on their offense. So I think if Baltimore don't make it all the way at least to the Super Bowl, or the AFC Championship, then they would be a bigger disappointment in my view.
Brother Bill.
Yeah, I think what's tough for the Ravens is the fact that they lost their running back early in the year, and the fact that they even have the 93 record now. I think that's testament to how well the team is playing. And so, I mean, given that, and Deacon Hill said it, they have a better defense. Sure, Miami is explosive offensively, but offensive explosive teams typically don't make it to a Super Bowl if they don't have a defense to come along with it. And we'll see when they play Buffalo again at home, right? Because Buffalo, put it on them when they were in Buffalo early in the year. And so I agree. I think that the Ravens, I believe, are the more complete team. And so if they don't at least make it to the AFC Championship, much less to the Super Bowl, that would be a disappointment.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's Baltimore, and it's probably Baltimore mostly because they kind of revamped. Like they went through all that stuff with Lamar last year, signed him to this massive contract, which means he's the dude, he's the guy that can get us to the Super Bowl. And this year with all these injuries and all these teams, I mean, the top, it's like Jacksonville's out, Steelers suck, Browns suck, Colts suck, Texans are sort of, I mean, unless the Bills just turn it on, like the playoffs games are going to kind of suck this year for the AFC, except until you like get that whole first round is going to be like you'd almost guarantee who's going to win. But then you have a game like last night where Jake Browning comes out of nowhere and throws for 300 yards. This dude basically hasn't played since college, and just came out, just lit up the Jaguars defense. And I thought the Jaguars defense was pretty good. And maybe part of it is, they have no tape on him because he hasn't done anything in years. But that was, maybe the AFC will just be big surprises this year, but it seems weak.
Trevor Lawrence could come back because he has a high ankle sprain. I mean, he's questionable for Sunday, although I doubt it. I expect them to sit him. But even if he does come back, I mean, again, of the AFC contenders, I look at which team is the most complete and has a defense that can travel. Pittsburgh has a defense, but they don't have a quarterback again.
Right. And they didn't really have one before. So
and if you hold them under 17 points, you got a good chance to win. They just don't put up enough points, right? like I said, Miami, if they ever got a defense to be half as good as that offense, I would give them the nod for trying to get to the Super Bowl. But we'll see.
And I still think like they still have Fangio. So even if they don't have like this elite personnel on defense, I just, man, I feel like when they get into the games that they have to win, I feel like because that dude was elite with us. Granted, we had good players, but the way the players talk about him and how he sets up a game plan and stuff, I just expect him when it gets down to crunch time, I expect it to be almost like he's kind of figuring stuff out, how to use people and everything still. And I feel like they're going to be able to turn it on when they have to, like with a really good game plan. When it gets to crunch time, and we'll see. And Tua, yeah, how Tua's still around. It's crazy compared to what he was last year. All right, switching to college football. We had the huge announcement before church on Sunday, and I was watching it like I care about any of these teams realistically. I don't really care about any of these teams, but I was watching it just like I wanted to see what was going to happen with Bama, what was going to happen with Georgia, what was going to happen with FSU, Texas. I mean, it was a great like championship weekend going into that, and I wanted FSU out of there because they were just horrible the last couple of weeks without their quarterback. They were a completely different team. And all I've seen since then is Danny Cannell is the biggest baby I have ever seen. This dude will just not let it go. It's like he's been crying about it in his soup for 3 days now. And it's just every time I'm on Twitter, it's just, how can they do this and and all this stuff. And I'm like, did you see your team score like 6 points against a terrible Louisville team? I mean, it's to me, it would have been terrible. Michigan would have loved it because they would have stomped them. Georgia's going to blow them. I mean, FSU is a 14-point underdog to Georgia. How could you put them in the playoffs if you're a 14-point to a technically fifth place team? But now that I've gone on my whole rant, brother Bill, thoughts on the games that we're going to see? If you have any thoughts on FSU or Georgia or any other teams, who do you think is going to win? What do you think about FSU? All that stuff.
Well, I'll jump right to who I think is going to win, and that's Alabama. How they get there, Michigan as well as they've been playing, as good as they looked against Ohio State, it's a bad matchup for them having to play Alabama in the semifinal. Michigan's style offensively doesn't match up well against Alabama's defense, especially considering what they just did to Georgia. So sorry, Wolverines. I mean, prove me wrong, but I can just see them getting bounced in the semifinal. And then the Washington Texas game is going to be a barn burner because Washington can put up. I mean, I think the over-under on that one game should be 80. I think it's going to be high scoring. And whoever has the ball last might very well win. And whoever comes out of that, after spending so much just to get to the final, Alabama's going to be waiting on them.
I'm actually going to look that up right now. So Deacon Hill, who do you think's going to go to the championship? Who do you think's going to win the championship?
Some of my intelligence is rubbing off on Brother Bill. I mean, he said just took everything out of my mouth right there. Alabama. I agree with him. The matchup with Michigan. I mean, Michigan tries to be a physical team, and that just feeds right into what Alabama wants to do. They try to battle you in the trenches on offense and defense. So I think that really plays into to Alabama's hands. Again, you're correct. I think I haven't really seen Texas. I know they beat Alabama in Alabama. That's the only game I've seen them play this year. And of course they're 11-1, or what are they, 12-1 now? And
yep.
That's going to be a barn burner and a toss up between Washington and Texas. But I think Alabama could go ahead and take this whole thing just by being as physical a team they are. And I was telling you guys earlier how that quarterback had, he finally found his niche and what he wanted to do, and they finally found out how to use them, and they turned their season around, And then on SFU, the Florida State, their number one alumni listened to Dion the other day, and he agreed with it. He said there's no way you could have left Alabama out of there, And in the circumstances with Florida losing their quarterback, So if Dion's all right with it, I don't see why anybody else can't be all right with it, So that's just how the chips fell.
Hey, so the over under for Texas Washington is 63.5 right now,
I'll take the over.
which is still pretty high.
Take
So
the over.
I think that Washington will beat Texas because I think Washington has a better coach than Texas. I think they're two evenly matched teams. I don't think Sark's I think Sark's a good coach. I think Washington is a great coach because Washington should not have beaten Oregon 2 times. And they pretty much controlled that game the second time they played, which should never happen it just shouldn't happen. Like if you're the team that's supposed to be in the playoffs, you cannot lose worse than you did the first time when you play them in the championship. So I think Washington will, whether it's high scoring, whatever, I think they're gonna get by them. And I think Bama's gonna beat Michigan because I think Nick Saban's a better coach than Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is a fantastic fundamentals coach. And I think that's it. I don't think he's out thinking the room. I don't think he's out coaching somebody. I think when you get to that higher echelon of coaches, Harbaugh is not in it. I think he's right at the top of like that next tier down. I think he can get the teams fired up. I think he can get, I do not see him beating Saban at all. And I think Saban will, I think the moment will be too much for Washington, and Alabama will get Washington too. That's my thought. So we're kind of all in a total agreement.
That's amazing for the guys that didn't even think Alabama was going to get in last week. But
that's true. Yeah, you definitely called that because I did not see that happening at all.
Wait, well, I thought we said Alabama would have to get it. I mean, would have to beat Georgia in order to get it. Isn't that what we said before the game?
Well, me personally, I was like, "There's no way they're going to jump from 8 to 4," and they jumped from 8 to 4.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah, the question was going to be whether or not that was going to knock Georgia out, which it did. Yeah, it was question. Yeah, could Alabama jump 4, and then would Georgia also fall 4 in order for Alabama just to get in?
Yeah, because that's a huge fall too. I mean, going 4 to 6. I mean, really, it was probably 5, and they probably felt bad for FSU, so they made them 5. But that's a fat jump or fat drop for Georgia because it wasn't like they got blown out. I mean, it's a close game.
Yeah.
I would have expected Georgia to be number 4 instead of Alabama, to be honest. Only because, they lost the final game, a close game in the SEC title game. I mean, I agree that FSU didn't belong to be there, but I would have expected, Georgia only to fall 3 spots and then them be the 4th. So I expected it was going to be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Georgia. But I understand, right? Because you can't say Alabama. For Alabama, you say, how can we not be there when we just knocked them out? You have to fill
yeah,
there.
It's because they just did it. It wasn't before.
Yeah. So I mean,
next year,
I get it. But I knew there's no way you were not going to have an SEC team
100%
in the playoff.
100%.
I said that last week.
Next year, when there's 12 teams, it's going to be bananas, and all these teams that are below 5, they're all going to get destroyed, and then we're going to have the same 4 teams in the finals again next year. It's going to be.
Revenue sharing, more money. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to, if they're going to make it a longer season. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they do that. Because right now, as it stands, you have teams having to play an extra game in the playoff now. So I don't know with 12 how you do that.
I'm assuming that they're just going to play through December. That would be my guess.
Oh.
Is it so we still have those new, because I mean, moving college football, a big time in college football, off of New Year's, that whole thing, that seems like one tradition that would be a little funky to get away from.
Or they would play some of those 50 million bowl games instead with some of those playoff games.
Have you gone through the list of those bowl games? They're all terrible. Like, I didn't see anything in there that I'm like, oh yeah, I need to see that. It's all teams that are willing to pay money to be in a bowl game.
I'll watch the Windex Bowl. That's the bowl I'm watching.
Yeah. Okay, last topic. We have a couple minutes left. All I've seen on the news since the season's been over for college football is all these quarterbacks transferring. Washington State makes sense. Oregon State makes sense because I don't even think they have a conference next year. I actually think it would be funny, and this would get tons and tons of attention if they just played each other 10 times next year. Just do a Pac-2. Who doesn't talk about that? If you're just trying to draw attention, and this is my marketing thing. If you're just trying to draw attention, if you played each other 10 times, that would be hilarious.
Nobody would watch.
They have nobody else to play.
Yeah, no one will watch.
They have nobody else to play.
Look, their own fans wouldn't even watch that. The student body wouldn't even watch that.
I mean, even in the best of series, you had most play a team. 7 was the best of 7. So 10, that's a tough sell.
They'd have to do 11, so there's no tiebreaker, I guess.
Right.
And they can call it instead of the Pac-2, they could call it the Tupac.
There you go.
Man, so I'm gonna be the Pac-2. I'm gonna be the Pac-2 commissioner. We're gonna make some changes. So the big ones that are leaving, the huge one is Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he's going. It'd be hilarious if he went to Michigan. That would be very funny. But Ohio State's losing their guy, and Oklahoma's losing their guy. And Oklahoma, I could, maybe I could see Oklahoma coming to USC, but then after watching USC be horrific with a guy that's supposedly a generational talent at quarterback, I don't see why anybody would come to USC and play for Riley. The Ohio State thing doesn't make any sense to me.
That one makes the most sense, really.
Really? But Ohio State pays.
The coach is basically throwing him under the bus. Did you hear what the coach said?
No. What did he say?
He said it's just going to be like they're going to evaluate everything. The quarterback position is going to be evaluated.
Right. Yeah.
So, and they're basically saying if they would have had a quarterback that they would have won, they'd have been in the playoffs. Okay. So I can see where that one makes the most sense. And I was looking at them other ones, half those guys already done transferred like 1 or 2 times already, and I'm like, they should come up with some kind of rule where, man, you can't be just keep on transferring all, every year I'm gonna transfer, what are you chasing here? So the one that makes the most sense is Ohio State, because he got kind of thrown under the bus.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear that. Yeah, it's tough. Like, I can't imagine. College football rosters are huge, and granted, you have your starters and you have the backup guys and everything. But if you're a college coach, if you have to you're constantly recruiting, and you're constantly recruiting your players to stay in the team that you already have, so you don't have to recruit more. That has to be a very hard job on top of actually coaching. There has to be something where you can transfer like make like one transfer or transfer every 2 years or something. There has to be something, because it's brutal.
Yeah, and like you said, like we always talk about the NFL, how they keep getting these coordinators and stuff, and they never get a chance to get any continuity. How are you going to get that? If I'm a quarterback, I wouldn't be wanting to transfer, especially like a senior. You're going to go transfer your senior year. What do you think? You think you're going to really gel into that system, or what? What are you trying to get here?
I'm thinking people see. I think people see stuff like what happened with Oregon, with Bo Nix. He transferred and had a great, and his QB stock went way up. And you see Burrow transfer from Ohio, but Burrow was a backup, so transferred to LSU, and he's like, that's the only thing. I think you have to be a certain mentality, obviously, to be this high level of an athlete. And I think whether you really are that dude or not that dude, the idea that you have it. You have that it factor, and if you just need the right situation and you don't have the like that has to be with the talk that's going on in their head, because it can't be NIL money, because Ohio State's got a ton of NIL money. You're not going to get much more someplace else. But if you think, I'm that dude and this coach sucks and whatever, then he's going to go to LSU, or he's going to go to, well, I guess Texas is keeping their quarterback, which is kind of weird with Manning. They talking the quarterback into staying, so because I guess Manning's not that great. After all that hoopla for where's he going to go, who's he going to sign with, he's like kind of mediocre. So, Brother Bill,
chime in. What do you got, Bill?
I was going to say, you're right about the Ohio State, about McCord getting one. I mean, I feel for him because he shouldn't have gotten thrown under the bus, because he's not the reason why they lost to Michigan. Number one. Number two. And they were actually talking about this even leading up to the game, how the coach had, he's 0-3 against Michigan. And so
beats everybody else. And beats everybody else.
Beats everyone else. So I don't know if there's any validity to, someone or some team being in someone's head. It's right. It's not that Harbaugh's a superior coach. I just believe that, Michigan is just the better team. Their style just matched up better against Ohio State, when traditionally it's been the other way around. And that's what's so odd, right? When with past Ohio State coaches, it didn't matter who the coach was in Michigan. When Urban Meyer was there, undefeated against Michigan, right? And so I don't know what it is. And so, yeah, McCord leaving. I mean, he's right. He saw the right of the wall. He said, "I'm out of here." So I get that. I didn't read too much on the other players, but you're right. I do agree that to bounce from school to school, three times in a row, that's crazy. I don't understand that at all.
Especially for starters.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to digress this for a moment because we didn't get a chance to talk before we close out. Deacon Hill, you mentioned that the Raiders have reloaded. I was kind of joking when I made the comment I did, but did y'all actually get some different players, or what's the reload you were talking about? Because I looked at their schedule, and I'm kind of hard pressed to see whether or not you guys can even finish above 500 because you've got some tough games ahead of you.
Well, first of all, we come to the reload was our bye. We had a bye. We had to get, we came home and we licked our wounds a little bit and we went through a couple things, got some things ironed out, and we got the Vikings at home, and then we have I believe we have the Colts at home. Is that right?
You got the Vikings at home and you got the Chargers at home.
And the Chargers at home. Okay.
You have no business losing to the Chargers.
Or the Vikings. So that's going to put us at 7-7 right there. So then we'll be back in the hunt again.
Vikings are a 3-point favorite.
I don't care.
Okay. The Chiefs, you got the Chiefs on Christmas. And then you
got the Chiefs on Christmas.
You should beat the Colts and you should beat the Broncos.
And we'll beat the Chiefs.
Well, the Colts are trying to get into the playoffs, so
they have Gardner Minshew. They're not, I mean, they only
that was at Indy. And Raiders typically haven't been a good East Coast team when y'all would go East, so
or a good West Coast team either. So that's kind of tough. So what are you
going? I'm saying. I mean, if you need to win three of your last 5, that's all I'm saying.
That's very possible.
Playoffs,
and that's just to get to 8 and 9. That's just to get 8 wins. So you can tell me you're going to win 4 of your last 5 games?
Come on, man. Commitment to excellence. Let's do this.
Good luck. That's all I can say.
Hey, is this show over?
It actually is. We have 1:24 left. It is over.
No, go Raiders. I'm rooting for y'all. I say that every week.
Hey, if the Raiders win, we'll get another Raiders fan on here so we can balance
there out. There you go.
Because we're definitely winning.
I have one in mind. He's been wanting to get on. So
Reverend Jeff Moore?
No.
We have too many Raiders fans at church. We need a new church.
James House.
Yes.
Yeah, he'd be a good one.
I want him on.
Okay, cool. You guys win. We'll have Brother House on here, and
there you go.
Even this out.
You go. Now you're talking
about our win and your win.
You talk about the Raiders and the Niners win. It's on the same call. That's good. That works.
All right, guys.
Niners lose.
Hey, whoa! We won't.
Said that last week.
It's cool. We won't.
You know
what? Keep saying it every week. I'm good with it. I'm good.
And I wish you would stop saying that you hope the Raiders win. Stop it.
This is gonna cut off, so I got to cut it off.
Okay. All right.
All right, guys. See you guys Sunday.
Okay. See you.